You ever notice how some people are always online, but never actually post anything? They see your vacation photos. They read every comment. They watch every story, but their own profile is basically a ghost town. And if you ask them why, they'll shrug and say something like, I just don't have anything interesting to share. But that is not the real answer. And if that sounds like you or someone you know, the psychology behind it goes a lot deeper than just being private. They're your friend who likes every post but never shares their own. Your coworker whose profile picture hasn't changed in 4 years. The person who is in the group chat every day but hasn't posted a single photo of themselves since maybe 2016. They know everything about everyone else's life, but nobody online knows much about theirs. And that is exactly how they want it. And here is what nobody tells you. Their silence online isn't absence. It is actually one of the most deliberate psychological choices a person can make. So here is where it starts. Not with social media. Way before that, picture a kid maybe 10 or 11 who figures out something early. The kids who get noticed aren't always the ones who get treated well. The loud ones get laughed at. The ones who share too much get talked about. The ones who show off get torn down by lunch. And this kid starts doing the math. Visibility equals vulnerability. If nobody's looking at you, nobody can hurt you either. So they get quiet, not sad quiet, strategic quiet. They learn to watch everything, absorb everything, and reveal almost nothing. And that equation follows them straight into adulthood. Psychologists call it self-presentation anxiety, not shyness, not introversion. It is a learned belief that putting yourself out there always costs more than it gives. And 61% of non-posters reported feeling genuine anxiety at the thought of sharing something about themselves online. Not mild discomfort, actual tension in their chest. Like the whole internet is a stage they never auditioned for. And the wild part is, most of the time nobody would have even noticed the post, but that doesn't matter. The fear isn't rational. It is rehearsed. But here is what is fascinating. It is not just about fear. There is a whole second layer that almost nobody talks about. These people aren't just avoiding posting, they're absorbing, constantly. Every feed they scroll through is information pouring in with nothing going back out. Psychologists call it passive social media consumption. And it does something specific to how you see your own life. Because when you spend hours watching other people's highlight reels without ever posting your own, something starts to shift inside. You start to believe that everyone else's life is the standard, and yours just doesn't quite measure up enough to share. It is not jealousy exactly. It is more like quiet self-disqualification. They look at what other people share and think, my life isn't like that. Not adventurous enough, not photogenic enough. Not worth announcing to anyone who might be watching. Not dramatic enough. Not pretty enough. Not interesting enough to justify taking up anyone's time or their attention. So they take the photo but don't post it, write the caption but delete it. Have the thought but keep it to themselves every single time. And there is this deeper thing that drives all of it. For a lot of these people, not posting isn't just avoidance. It is actually a form of control. Because every time you post, you are handing a piece of yourself to strangers. You are saying here, judge this version of me. Tell me if it is good enough. And it is not just the judgment they're avoiding, it is the performance. The picking the right filter, the writing the caption that sounds casual but took 20 minutes. All of it feels fake. And for someone who learned early on that being visible means being vulnerable, that whole performance feels absolutely insane. But here is what nobody talks about. There is a real cost to being invisible online, and the people around them feel it. Because in a world that runs on algorithms, if you don't post, you slowly stop existing. Not just to the platform, to the people on it. You stop showing up in people's feeds. You stop getting invited to things that started as online conversations. Friends forget to tag you because you are simply never there. And their partners feel it too. They want to post a photo together and get told, please don't. They want to celebrate an anniversary online, and the answer is always, I'd rather keep it private. And the partner hears privacy, but what it really means is, I don't trust the world to be kind about the things I care about. And it is a tiny moment, but it chips away at the people who love them, because what they hear is, you are not allowed to be proud of us in public. And their friends and family start to wonder, are they okay? Are they pulling away on purpose? Did I do something wrong? But they're not pulling away. They're standing exactly where they've always stood, present, but invisible, watching, but never waving. And the loneliest part is, they notice their own disappearance. They see the invitations shrink. They feel the distance grow, and they still can't bring themselves to post. And here is the paradox that makes this whole thing so complicated. They genuinely believe they don't need validation from strangers online, and in a lot of ways they're actually right. That is a healthy instinct. They read real books, they have real conversations, they measure their worth by what they feel, not what they can prove to an audience. They remember birthdays without Facebook reminding them. They check in with a phone call, not a comment. They know things about the people they love that no algorithm ever could. But the same instinct that protects them from the noise also isolates them from connection. And that is where the line gets blurry. Because there is a difference between choosing privacy and disappearing. Because you don't believe your life is worth sharing. And most of these people, if they're being honest with themselves, know which one it really is. Psychologist Ethan Kross puts it this way. The most revealing thing about someone's social media isn't what they post. It is what they choose to hold back. And for these people, what they're holding back is themselves. Not because they don't want connection, but because they learned that real connection shouldn't need an audience. And maybe they're not entirely wrong about that. Because the people who don't post often have the deepest offline relationships. The conversations that last 3 hours instead of 3 comments. Friendships built on showing up in person, not just reacting to a story. They chose depth over visibility, and that is not nothing. But here is the quiet truth underneath all of it that most of them will never say out loud. Sometimes they wish someone would notice they're gone, that someone would look at the silence and actually wonder where they went. Not in a dramatic way, just a quiet hope that their absence means something to somebody, even if they'd never admit that to anyone. Because underneath all the logic, underneath all the, I just don't see the point, there is a kid who learned that the safest place to be is nowhere. And that kid is still running the math, still weighing the cost of being seen against the comfort of being invisible. And invisible keeps winning. And if any of this feels familiar, I want you to hear something clearly. Your life doesn't need an audience to be real. Your experiences don't need likes to count. That instinct to protect what is yours, that is not broken, that is intelligence. But if the reason you don't share is because some part of you genuinely believes you are not enough to be seen, that part is wrong. You are not invisible because you are not worth seeing. You are invisible because somewhere along the way you decided that hiding was safer than being known. And maybe the bravest thing isn't finally posting. Maybe it is just recognizing why you stopped in the first place. And maybe that recognition, just sitting with it quietly, that is enough for now. If any of this hit home, I'd genuinely appreciate it if you subscribed. And if you want to support these deep dives, hit that join button. Because the people who don't post on social media aren't missing out on life. They're just living it somewhere the algorithm can't reach. And there is something quietly powerful about that. Even if nobody ever clicks like,